It looks as though the ceasefire lasted a very short period of time. Max Radford was evacuated, I think, to Cyprus late yesterday. And it's good to know that you're probably no longer in any danger. Max, very good morning to you.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, Mike.
Are you back in?
I'm slurring already after a long night.
Yeah, I was going to say, are you still in Cyprus? Or are you back in Blighty now?
No, I'm back in Blighty. Arrived in the middle of the night, so I managed to get a couple of hours sleep.
Okay. Good. Well, I was just reminding people earlier that when we spoke to you last week, the only sort of Foreign Office advice was to try and see if you could get yourself to the Egyptian border. I mean, I'd like to think that we played some part in putting some pressure on the government to actually finally announce that they were going to get some planes there. It took them about 4 days, but they got there in the end.
Yeah, well, the first thing I want to say actually is I'm thankful to the RAF and to the Foreign Office ground staff who were absolutely phenomenal. All of them, and they enabled me to bring my elderly parents who've got health conditions, back to the UK. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been on that evacuation myself. But there were many people in similar situations that were on that were, I guess, prioritised.
Yeah.
So we're now back in the UK after quite an experience. But I will say, first of all, that I'm really mindful that this is just 63 of us. There are, thousands of Brits that are still there in the same situation, hoping to get out with all kinds of different circumstances. And, whilst, I'm not even sure it's good to be back in the UK, I'm glad that my parents are back in the UK and away out of harm's way. But the reality is that it felt a little bit along the way that it was a little bit of a almost PR stunt by the Foreign Office, by David Lammy, to show some kind of evacuation. But the reality is it was very much, like I said to you last week, too little, too late. The plan is quite frankly shambolic at the top level of the Foreign Office, not the ground staff that were amazing. Yeah. So it's been, quite an experience.
Yeah, I bet. And obviously now with the hostilities still going on, you must be thankful that you're not really there. What have you left behind? What are the people saying?
Kind of. I mean, obviously, it's so fluid. It changes from moment to moment. So, you don't know whether the airport's going to be open, the airspace is going to be open. There are constraints in respect of how many people you can have in an area that's close to a shelter. If there's a siren and there's a need to be in a safe place. So, that places a little bit of a restriction on the air side, on the land side, in Israel. But really, the lack of plan to scale up this plan to get more people out much quicker is just really symptomatic, I said, of the government. It's quite ironic that I'm back in the UK, and whilst there are a lot of Brits that are wanting to be here, actually I'm getting a lot of other people saying to me, and I've left essentially a war zone. You're going back to the UK, they're worried for my safety coming into Britain because of the situation here. So that's a little bit of the feeling. But there's a lot of, it's intense, it's very fluid. There are people sitting by the phone waiting for an email, maybe to let them know that there'll be a flight that will be taking them, as I said initially, an RAF flight to first get you out of Israel into Cyprus. And then, it's really unbelievable what they put on, Mike. We ended up with flying, without giving too much away from a security perspective, into Birmingham. I think there may be one person on the plane. It was Birmingham. Budget constraints. They actually, rather than just evacuate British citizens out of a war zone, first thing they do is send you an email and charge you £350 to get on an RAF plane, and then a plane back from Cyprus. So obviously I had that, and my parents, and for some people that's pretty difficult already. They've already had much, extended stays in Israel. Right. And now got that additional expense. I mean, it just shows the incompetence really at the Foreign Office level, and the lack of budget even to help citizens. I would say this, Mike, that whilst the war hadn't started when we first went out there, we know about the situation in the Middle East for many years, and you would think that they would have a plan in place at any time. And it just shows that there wasn't any. When I was on your show... Yeah,
I don't think they had a plan. When you and I last spoke, I don't think they had a plan at all.
Yeah, the plan that they're actually kind of gone with is the plan, that I myself and others have been suggesting for over 10 days about having planes ready in Cyprus, so that when there's an opening in the airspace, to not do one flight or even two, which is obviously restricted because of the RAF aircraft, but there should be, you know, multiple aircraft there ready to, you know, shuffle back every hour. And you know, it was a little bit of guilt actually felt on the plane, you know, because, you know, it was 60 people on the plane, and you'd think that there'd be a plane there with 250 people that can get people back to the UK. You know, David Lammy standing, you know, in Parliament talking about how he's extracted 63 people like it's a victory. Right. It's actually a total embarrassment on his part, and how ineffective he is.
Well, I mean, that's before you ask him whose side he's on, really, but there we are. Good to talk to you, Max. Thanks very much indeed. Glad you're back safe. Max Radford evacuated from Israel yesterday with 62 other people, but still plenty of people left behind. People have said to me in the past, you know, why are we rescuing people who've gone willingly to a country which they knew was in danger? Well, it wasn't in danger when they went, and I think the government does have a responsibility. Every other country was doing it, and I don't think there's anything wrong with the RAF doing it. As he said, doing a great job.